At least 389 people have been killed and more than 1,400 remain missing in Nepal and Tibet after flash floods devastated the Himalayan border region on Wednesday. More than 500 foreigners are among the missing, including nationals from the United States, India, and South Korea. As rescue operations continue, a rapid response team from South Korea has arrived in Nepal to support the search for 9 missing Koreans. With major roads and bridges cut off, rapid access to the affected area is expected to depend on helicopter support from the Nepalese government. South Korea, the US, and Japan will carry out their Trilateral military exercise off South Korea's southern coast early next month. Seoul's military said the drills will take place in international waters near Jeju-do Island to counter North Korean nuclear and missile threats. Hello and welcome to our noon edition of Arirang News. Thousands of people are still unaccounted for in Nepal and Tibet after catastrophic flooding swept through the region. Rescue teams are working around the clock to reach those who may still be trapped, while families wait anxiously for news of their loved ones. Our Muniran has the details.
Rescue teams in Nepal and Tibet are racing to find more than 1,400 people still missing, 2 days after a glacier collapse unleashed catastrophic flooding along the Himalayan border. The disaster, which struck Wednesday, has killed at least 389 people in Nepal, according to local authorities. Among the missing are more than 500 foreigners from countries including the United States, India, and South Korea. Many of them are believed to have been on pilgrimage routes near the border. Officials expect the death toll to rise as search teams comb through mud-covered villages downstream. For families of the missing, the wait has been agonizing. Chimindi Straster's 26-year-old son was driving a truck when floodwaters hit. She says she hasn't heard from him since.
My son is stuck in the floods. He is a truck driver, and he said he was driving. And we last spoke at around 8:30. After that, there is no news of him. We are not able to find out anything.
Scientists believe the flood was triggered when a section of glacier and rock gave way high in the mountains, sending a wall of water, mud and debris crashing through the Bagmati region and into Tibet's Jirang County. The surge destroyed roads, bridges and a key border crossing, complicating rescue access. Nepal's army has evacuated workers trapped at a hydropower plant and pulled dozens of survivors out by helicopter. Authorities say more than 17,000 personnel are now involved in the search, with roughly 1,470 people rescued so far. Meanwhile, Chinese authorities have warned of another potential flood after the landslide blocked rivers, creating a large lake along the border. They say the barrier could break, sending another surge of water into areas already devastated by Wednesday's floods. Woon-hae-ryun, Arirang News.
As Nepal races to locate hundreds missing following flooding on Wednesday, the Korean government is mounting its own emergency operation for 9 nationals whose whereabouts remain unknown. Our Oh Soo-young has the details.
An 11-member Korean government rapid response team has arrived in Nepal as 9 Koreans remain unaccounted for following severe flooding. The team reached Kathmandu on Thursday local time, led by Im Sang-woo, the government's representative for overseas Korean protection and consular affairs. The team, comprising officials from the Foreign Ministry, the National Fire Agency and the National Police Agency, will begin assessing conditions on Friday before beginning full-scale search and rescue support.
We will do everything possible to ensure the swift and safe search and rescue of our nationals in Nepal.
Response teams from Tusan and Ability and Korea Southeast Power also travelled to Nepal on Thursday. The flooding struck the northern Rasua district on Wednesday morning local time, where the companies were building a hydroelectric power plant. 9 Koreans connected to the project remain missing. Of another 10 who had been stranded, 9 were flown to safety by a Nepalese military helicopter on Thursday. The remaining person, a Tusan and Ability site manager, stayed behind with 2 South Korean embassy staff. With major roads and bridges cut off, rapid access to the affected area is expected to depend on helicopter support from the Nepalese government. Depending on the Korean response team's assessment, Seoul will decide whether to send additional rescue support. On Thursday, Foreign Minister Cho Hyun, during a phone call with his Nepalese counterpart, said Seoul is considering deploying a Korea disaster relief team to support wider relief efforts. Cho also announced $1 million in humanitarian assistance for Nepal's emergency response and early recovery. He requested Nepal's active support in locating the 9 Koreans out of reach and coordinating with the response team. The government says it has received no further reports of Koreans unaccounted for, but is monitoring the situation closely as Nepal is a popular destination for Korean travellers. The Foreign Ministry announced Friday the appointment of a new ambassador to Nepal, Park Jae-kyung, who has served as Director General for ASEAN and Southeast Asian Affairs, and most recently Ambassador to Zimbabwe. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The Trilateral military exercise, Freedom Edge, between South Korea, the United States, and Japan is set to take place for 5 days, starting September 7th in international waters near Jeju-do Island. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff on Friday, the annual exercise is aimed at responding to North Korea's nuclear and missile threats, while safeguarding peace and stability in the region. The exercise follows the scaled-back ROK-U.S Freedom Shield drill earlier this month. The previous Freedom Edge exercise was held last September, and this year's is expected to be similar in scale and scope, including maritime missile defense and cyber defense. Over in the Middle East, Iran is laying out its conditions for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, as Oman and Qatar step up mediation efforts. Tehran says any deal must include an end to the regional war. Meanwhile, talks continue on a temporary shipping corridor. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
Iran is preparing a list of conditions for reopening the Strait of Hormuz as regional mediators intensify efforts to ease tensions and restore shipping through the key waterway. Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Mohsen Rezai, says mediators asked Tehran to set out its demands with an end to the regional war among Iran's main conditions. Rezai says Iran has also reached an understanding with Oman on a possible shipping corridor through the strait. Under the proposal, vessels would travel through a designated central channel, passing through both Omani and Iranian waters, provided the United States meets Tehran's conditions. Iran and Oman are still working on the details. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have said Tehran will not agree to fully reopen the strait unless Washington lifts what Iran describes as a blockade of its ports, removes sanctions, and provides compensation. At the same time, Qatar is stepping up its mediation efforts. Qatari Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani visited Tehran on Thursday for talks with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. It marks the first high-level Qatari visit to Iran since the war began on February 28th. According to Qatar's state news agency, the two sides discussed ways to reduce tensions and create conditions for renewed dialogue between Iran and the United States. They also reviewed a proposed phased plan for the Strait of Hormuz, including a temporary shipping corridor and a joint effort to clear mines from the waterway. Sheikh Mohammed stressed the importance of respecting regional sovereignty and ensuring freedom of navigation while calling for continued diplomacy. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korean chipmaker SK Hynix has broken ground on a new AI memory packaging facility in the United States. The company held a ceremony on Thursday at Purdue University for what will become its first next-generation high-bandwidth memory production hub in Indiana. SK Hynix plans to invest more than $4 billion, with mass production expected to begin in the second half of 2029. The facility is projected to employ about 1,000 people and become a key U.S. HBM production base by 2030. SK Hynix will also build a research and development testbed for advanced chip packaging technologies. Mobile supermarkets are bringing groceries to Korea's rural areas, helping older residents who have limited access to nearby grocery stores. Our Baek Ju-hee reports.
A small market has opened up in a village in Okcheon. It's a one-ton truck modified into a supermarket, with its shelves stocked with food and other daily necessities. As it settles in, villagers start coming out to see what's on offer.
Today I got flour and rice too. They bring it right to us, so I'm grateful. We old people can't get out, so we're always waiting for them.
This is Hyangsu Mobile Market, and it comes to villages where buying groceries used to mean a trip of 30 minutes or more.
The older residents are really happy with it. Before, buses were hard to get on and didn't come often, and many of them have trouble getting around. Now the truck comes right into the village, and they'll even carry it to the door.
Since July, the truck has made the same rounds through 10 villages every few days, and shoppers pay with a rural basic income card worth 150,000 won, or about $108 a month.
Okcheon is a region facing depopulation, so there just aren't many stores left. We started the mobile market at our center to help boost local spending. We're trying to do our small part to bring people back and get the local economy moving again.
Nationally, fewer and fewer people in the countryside can buy groceries close to home. By 2025, only 22.5% bought them inside their own village, down 12.6 percentage points from 2014.
When you combine a shrinking population with older residents eating less, total food demand in these areas falls. That's why so many businesses and supermarkets have closed down and disappeared, leaving these communities without access to the goods and services they need.
With demand too thin to keep a store opened, the government has been filling the gap, funding mobile markets since 2024 with 9 counties running them as pilot sites. It now plans to bring in more local governments and offer expert consulting to help each one draw up its own operating plan. And on Wednesday, Parliament passed a revision to the country's farming and food law that makes food access a legal responsibility of the government and requires the Agriculture Ministry to survey the problem every 5 years. The government plans to expand the mobile market programs to more counties in the coming years. With new measures on the road, the hope is that more villages like the ones in Okcheon will have somewhere to shop, whether that's a store on the road or a truck that pulls up at the door. 백주희, Arirang News, Okcheon.
South Korea bears the painful history of the so-called comfort women. These women were forced into sexual slavery during Japanese colonial rule. With fewer first-hand witnesses now left to tell their stories, the film Spirit's Homecoming has returned to movie theaters a decade after its original release. Our Park Chae-ryung reports.
During Japan's colonial occupation of Korea, many women were forced into sexual slavery. As time passes, the number of survivors able to testify firsthand has shrunken year by year, leaving only 5 so-called comfort women still alive today. Against this backdrop, the 2016 film Spirit's Homecoming, which portrays the suffering of the victims, was recently re-released.
Here at CGV Yongsan, audiences are once again coming face-to-face with a story first brought to the screen 10 years ago.
Some moviegoers share their thoughts on the film.
I hope this re-release gives more people a chance to see it again and reflect once more on the history of the comfort women.
The problem of the Japanese military sexual slavery system is not a problem of the past, it's connected to reality because there's still women in many parts of the world that experience gender-specific violence and sexual violence. Even quite close to home in Ukraine, there's also a lot of violence against women as a war tactic, so I think it's an issue that we need to continue talking about.
The film is based on testimonies from victims of Japan's wartime sexual slavery and depicts the suffering of young Korean girls taken from their homes during the colonial era. When it first hit theaters in 2016, Spirit's Homecoming drew more than 3.5 million moviegoers, bringing renewed public attention to the victims' experiences. A decade later, however, the number of registered survivors still alive has fallen from 47 to just 5. As first-hand witnesses grow fewer, the director of the movie says the film has taken on another role.
A film alone cannot change reality, but a film can serve as a form of cultural evidence. I hope this film will help preserve this painful part of Korea's history and help prevent such a tragedy from ever happening again.
President Lee Jae-myung also marked the film's return in a social media post, calling on the public to remember the painful history and ensure that the victims' stories are not forgotten. 10 years after its first release, Spirit's Homecoming is returning not only as a film about the past, but also as a record for current and future generations. Park Chae-ryung, Arirang News.
This is the world now. In the United States, President Donald Trump wants Lake Ontario to be renamed Lake America. He signed an order to that effect on Thursday as conflict with Canada deepens. The order tells the Interior Department to change the name in official U.S. records immediately. Canada is not expected to recognize the change, and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said the lake's name is more than 400 years old and that Canadians will keep calling it Lake Ontario. Lake Ontario sits on the border of the U.S. and Canada. Last year, Trump renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. In the United States, Meta says it has shut down an Iranian operation aimed at influencing people through social media. Meta's report said Thursday it removed Facebook and Instagram accounts tied to operators in Iran. Those accounts were routed through the U.S. or Canada to hide their origin and used artificial intelligence to push posts and make memes about American politics. Some posed as American activists, students, and designers living in cities in the United States and tagged real journalists and politicians in their posts. About 79,000 accounts followed at least one of the Iranian accounts. In the United States, shares in the chipmaker Nvidia jumped 8.7% on Thursday, its biggest one-day gain since April 2025. The surge added $442 billion to the company's value, the second largest one-day gain ever. Strong quarterly results and a forecast of 70% revenue growth for the 2028 financial year eased fears of cooling AI demand. The rally lifted the wider market. The S&P 500 rose 0.7% and the Nasdaq gained 1.6%. Attention now shifts to Federal Reserve Chairman Kevin Warsh, who speaks at Jackson Hole on Friday. In Japan, the artist Yayoi Kusama has died at the age of 97. Her museum said she died in hospital on August 14th and gave no cause. Kusama was known for her dot-covered paintings, pumpkin sculptures, and mirrored rooms. She said she had seen hallucinations of dots and flashing lights since childhood. She voluntarily lived in a psychiatric hospital from 1977 and painted until her final days. Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
We have rain and showers in the forecast. Southern provinces will see heavier rainfall today due to warm southerly winds carrying extra moisture to rain clouds. So southern parts of Gangwon-do province and most of the southern provinces could see up to 70 to 80 millimeters of heavy rainfall. Meanwhile, passing showers are in the forecast for the capital area. Today's rain will bring relief from the heat. Southern provinces will notice the difference before more rain this weekend will bring cooler air to the country. But Seoul will be as hot as yesterday, getting up to 32 degrees Celsius, but Daegu, Busan, Gwangju will make it to 31 degrees. Rain will spread up north tomorrow, and most of the country will see rain on Saturday, possibly into Sunday. Then starting next week, we could notice much more comfortable mornings and evenings, while afternoon heat still stays around 30 degrees Celsius.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.